guys, how's it going? Merry Christmas. I hope you're all having a really, really wonderful day. Now, we are filming this the Thursday before Christmas. So we just decided, because the week before Christmas is still kind of regular, that we would just maintain consistency and still film the recap video. So whether you're watching this on Christmas or you're saving it to watch it later, thanks for being here and watching the recap. It's been a really fun season. I'm ready though for
it to be over.
No, I'm ready for new stuff. I'm not ready to move past the excitement of the kids. You guys, I'm so excited. Yesterday I brought the kids down, or this morning rather, I brought the kids down when they woke up, and Benjamin was like, Samantha, it's only however many sleeps.
Yeah.
Two sleeps till Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And just such excitement. I'm really looking forward to that part of it in particular, but I am excited to pack away Christmas. I've got tubs already in the back shade porch. I'm ready to pack it up and move it out. Move on to spring. So I'm sure that...
Well, I told you last night that I'm really excited for spring this year. I feel like our garden is kind of coming into its own. The South Garden.
The trees, like, you know, some of them we planted year before last. And so this will be their third season. They leap.
Well, and I've got some plans on amendments and stuff like that.
Oh, you do? Interesting.
I think they'll appreciate it.
Nice. See, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to the cut flower garden. I'm looking forward to the new property. I'm just like, I've got a lot of starting to bubble up and wanting to spill over at the moment. So let's jump into the videos from this last week. The first one was planting for winter interest for beginners, sort of. I kind of explained how, I don't know. I mean, it was definitely a video targeted at northern climate gardeners, those of you guys who are in colder climates, because that's where winter interest really matters, where things die back, where it's brown and muddy and or snow covered. We're supposed to get, did I hear your mom last night say we're supposed to get like between 5 and 7 inches between tomorrow and the next day?
Oh, are we really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And then it's going to be followed the following week by a bunch of rain. Which is awesome. Like, that means snow pack in the mountains, which is big for us. Yeah,
whatever brings moisture.
Yeah.
It's like we'll take any form, we'll take it.
Anyway, so I just went through a bunch of different categories. There were 6 of them, including hardscape as being an element of winter interest. And we just went through some of my favorite varieties. And the list is endless, you guys. I mean, I just scratched the surface of some of the things that look good in the wintertime. And it's an ever-evolving process. I mean, you know, with the South Garden, we're starting from scratch out there. Creating winter interest and bone structure, it takes time. And it can kind of get discouraging sometimes.
Especially for the big stuff when you're waiting for,
I know we have no reason or room to complain about it because we had those big trees put in, which is amazing. I love having the big evergreens. But there's still a lot of things that you're like, come on, I want this to evolve quicker.
Yeah.
So I can see what it's going to look like in the end at more mature sizes. But anyway, Amy said, I leave my Limelight standard flowers up in the winter. The smaller birds like to nestle in the blooms, especially when it's windy. I do have big mounds of carex, but question, do you cut back carex in the spring? The tips of the leaves always turn brown. They do for us as well, and look bad the next season. Someone told me not to cut them back because they won't regrow. Mine do. I mean, we cut them back in the early spring, and they push new spring growth. Guardian Mini Farm said, how do you get a multi-trunk tree like your golden rain tree and the redbud? Are they pinched as saplings, pruned, or multiple young trees grown together? All of the above. It just depends. I think some of the ones that were here grew up naturally and just were never like selectively pruned to leave one. Like the, we were just talking about the elm behind the chicken coop. How it had 3 trunks like kind of connected almost underneath the ground though.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't even really, I mean, I guess you could tell right above the soil surface that they were kind of connected. A lot of times when you're buying them, there are 3 separate trunks in one container. So they were planted that as really young whips. And sometimes they're like a little trunk and then they branch out from there into a multi-trunk. So it takes various forms. Carol said, such a wealth of information, inspiration to the max. Good, I'm glad. Over the years of watching, you've made me think about winter interest in a whole new way. Thank you. Still curious about the gorgeous table in the Hartley. Where is it from? That table I ordered from a company that I cannot pronounce the name properly, I'm sure, but Our House.
I think it's just Our House.
Our House. It's Arhaus.
Yeah.
Our House. Anyway, I waited for months for that table to arrive, and it was a splurge. But I wanted, like, I had a vision of what I wanted in the Hartley, of the, you know, the structure of the table, the elements it was made out of, and I love it. We've actually considered moving it into our kitchen because it's it's prettier than the table we have in there. I definitely spent more on that one.
It's a little smaller, though, isn't it?
I think it is, like, just by a few inches.
Which, honestly, probably would be fine.
Yeah, it probably would be. Sandy says, thanks for the list. Can you show us the principles of arranging them? I know you say you don't like landscape design and need to see the plants in the space, but perhaps there are some tips you could share. I see you plant all the time, but I'm not sure I know why you are doing it. We can't see the vision in your head. I know I have a really hard time verbalizing vision in my head. That's like a problem of mine, and maybe that's why I hate landscape design so much, like applying it to other people's spaces. I try to explain like the surroundings. Whenever we plant something new, especially in the South Garden, I kind of explain like this is going to fill in this area, and then we've got these other plants around it, which will, you know, complement it either in contrast or texture or color or whatever the case may be. But I don't know. I would think I would have a hard time maybe putting together like basics of arranging.
Well, I mean, part of it is color, which you've talked about.
Yeah, color, texture, different seasons of interest, making sure you leave room for things to get to their full size, which sometimes I still fail at. Because sometimes things grow a lot bigger than the tag says, like Spartan junipers.
Yeah.
In our area, junipers are one of the only native evergreens to our space here. And so Spartan junipers say what, like 10 to 15 feet tall and 5 to 6 feet wide. And they'll get like 15 feet wide, like massive, 25 feet tall. So it's kind of, sometimes you just never know.
It also depends on what your goal is. The principles can change, I guess, depending on what you're going for.
Yeah.
In terms of how thick you want things to be, if you want a screen in the end, or if you want it to be more wispy and architectural.
Or mixed.
Yeah.
You know, and like layering from back to front. I mean, I guess there are some basics.
You want the biggest stuff in the back and work your way down as you get closer to like the lawn, if you have one.
Yeah.
Or pathway.
As a general rule, but there's always exceptions to that as well. You know, if you want to plant something a little bit bigger along the way that kind of blocks the vision so that you have to go around, it creates mystery, so that not everything is, you know, like perfectly in line.
I feel like my method for anything is to get on Google. There's just like such a wealth of photos that you can look at. And there's lots of gardening books and stuff. You just kind of have to figure out what your style is. Make sure it's compatible with your growing zone. Because like I think there's a lot of things in like England, for example, that you would like to do.
Oh, yes.
That we just can't accomplish here.
Right.
Like the types of hedging that they do.
Yeah, I mean, we barely get by with our boxwood hedging.
Yeah.
We do it.
Yeah.
But it's
so you have to make sure that your style is compatible with where you live in some way. But then you like just... If you know what you like, just start copying those elements. And like you'll probably get it pretty close to what you want. Yeah.
It might take a little adjusting here and there and a little time to kind of hone, because I think it does for everybody. But anyway, yeah. Susan said, what are your thoughts about getting a windmill for your property? I have no idea what my thoughts are on that. I don't think I've ever
windmill?
I don't think I've ever considered a windmill.
Like an energy producing windmill, or
that'd be kind of cool.
Or just
we could produce a ton of energy with all the wind that we get here.
I don't know. You know, we talked about the whole solar panel thing,
yeah,
and how like maybe they are recyclable, but I don't think that most people do.
Is that the kind of windmill you think she's talking about? Or
well,
like
maybe, or
one
like
of the pretty
like a Holland
windmills, which would not go with our design aesthetic. I don't think. I would look a little bit out of place.
Yeah.
But
whatever type of windmill, I don't think it would fit with our
That's
garden.
An interesting question, though, because I don't think have you ever thought about it?
I've never once considered a
Me
windmill.
either. Huh.
You know, the energy producing windmills are not common in this area.
No.
Just maybe we don't get enough wind, or I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe it's we don't get enough wind, like consistent wind.
I suppose so, because we'll have days where it's just beautiful and calm, and then we get like the massive windstorm all of a sudden that lasts for an evening, and then it's done for another week.
Right.
And it always happens on a Friday.
Yeah.
I swear. It's
our
like
wind just saves
clockwork.
up for one day.
Yep. And it's when, like, you know, yeah. Anyway, Linda said, love the winter interest topic. I was just wondering, how did you come up with the name Garden Answer? it was like we tried so many different things. We had to figure out what, was available. Basically, what made sense, what was concise and short and kind of told what it was while being available on all the social media platforms. That was hard to do.
I'm always impressed when people come up with names that are really good. Like, I think Kevin got a really good one with Epic Gardening.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Especially for a guy. I feel like it just is on brand with him.
Yeah, it wouldn't fit for me.
No, probably not. But it was just a matter of typing in things that, you have to get something that's available.
And we ended up having to buy the domain for the website.
Yeah.
So, because that was the only thing that wasn't available, but we didn't have a website right from the very beginning, and it's not very active. It's
we did. It was gardenanswer.net.
Oh.
Instead of gardenanswer.com. And then a couple years into making videos, which was still the early days, it became available for $1,000. And at the time, that seemed like a huge expense.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was.
And I still don't know that we've actually recouped that $1,000 because we've never done anything.
No.
It
we
just
wanted
there.
to have the name, just in case we ever do develop it.
Yeah. But now we have gardenanswer.com.
Yep. Suzanne said, I was just wondering how your wheat was doing. It's doing really well. So it came up beautifully. I think I updated it in a video, or maybe it was just on Instagram. I can't remember, but I did take a little video of it and shared somewhere. It's probably Instagram. But it's a beautiful, kind of mat of green that's probably 3-4 inches tall. The whole row came up just gorgeous. So I'm really looking forward.
Is it doing fine under the snow?
Yeah. It's it's the wheat that you plant in the fall and harvest in midsummer here. Sherry said, Deodar cedar. You're saying Deodora cedar. Is there another cedar called Deodora that's different from a Deodar? I think what it is that the botanical is Cedrus deodora, also known as the Deodar cedar. So Cedrus deodora, Deodar cedar. Common name. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not sure. But it could be a situation like Garden Answer and Garden Answers, adding an S to the end of answers.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm adding an A unnecessarily. But you guys know what I'm talking about, I hope. Next video was using poinsettias in a fresh cut arrangement. That was a fun project because it was a little bit of a departure. I haven't done a cut flower arrangement in a while, especially in the wintertime. I miss being able to go out and pick all the colors that I like and all of this. Having a cut flower garden space is just, it's been
spoiled.
It's been amazing. I go to the grocery store and I'm thankful because ours here in town, it's called Albertsons. It's like a little chain in our area, but they have a pretty decent little flower section in there. A lot to choose from, but it's a lot of the same things, Alstroemeria, Gerbera daisies, mums, and it's a lot of stiff things. So I was very excited to find some nice white stock. That was my favorite thing. And then they had white tulips, which had enormously long stems. I don't know how they did it, but the stems were this long. And I saw some comments how did you get them to get down into the water? They went all the way down in the water. There was no problem getting them to fit. So I was thankful for that. But then I went through the process of using poinsettia stems in a cut arrangement to not have them wilt. And then we added in a branch, kind of just some neat different elements. Housewarman said, I'm considering buying a large piece of land for gardening. Is there anything I should be aware of or any tips? I would take a shovel out to that land and dig yourself a hole.
Honestly, that's not a terrible idea.
No.
If you're looking at multiple properties to do some soil samples, if you have the time.
It depends on what you want to do with it. And you can, it depends on how much work you want to put into it as well. But you get a soil test done. So you'll collect soil from several different locations. There are mail-in type. What are the names of those again? Do you remember soil test kit?
Yeah.
Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
There was a couple different ones we showed where you collect the samples, put it in a box. It's kind of like the 23andMe thing.
Yeah.
You send it in and then they send you back the results. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to know where your pH is, what kind of nutrients you might be lacking, or you have an abundance in that soil. You dig a small hole if you can, see if you're dealing with a bunch of rocks, clay, hard pan.
You also, depending on the area you're in, you need to know what your water source is going to be.
Yes.
Whether it's either the rain or an irrigation district, where you get water via canals or wells, however the water, water's a
Water
pretty
rights
big deal
on your property.
Yeah. Figure out the water situation where it's going to come from. There's always, not always, there's usually a way to get water to your property.
Yeah. Exposure. I mean, obviously, you have to consider exposure for gardening, specific types of gardening. You know, vegetable and flower production, you need a lot of sun. What other things? I don't know, just taking a really critical look at it. If there's a lot of trees, see how many of them look diseased, how many you're going to have removed. That's all consideration.
You know, another thing is knowing how deep before you get to rock. Because in some areas, I've been watching this guy who's been like blowing up using dynamite. He's been like blowing up areas of his property and showing other people doing that. Like they want to create a pond and they literally have to like blow up an area because the rock is just like a foot deep. So you've got soil on top and then just...
So unless you want to use dynamite on your property,
yeah.
It'd be nice to know. Yeah. Anything else?
I'm trying to think of anything else that we came across. You know, just all the utilities. You want to figure out where you're going to get all your utilities from.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you want to make sure is like get with the county and make sure that if there's any easements or future plans, like if you're close to a city, if the city has any plans to put something major through, or I don't know
Which
how you
there is. There's in the master plan for our city, there is a road that goes straight through the South Garden. And that's one of the reasons why we picked up the pasture in front of our house and we bought the other piece, the pasture, because the more land we buy around it, it hedges us in and gives us more opportunity to grow things, but it also eliminates the viability. I don't know if that's the right word.
Well, if we buy it, we're stopping a developer from buying it.
Yeah. And that's the only reason why they would put a road to it, is to get to more homes, which there's tons of opportunity in our area for things like that. So it's not like we're taking away from somebody's ability to build a home and live in it. So before you comment that,
There's like, you can literally pick everywhere else.
Except
if
for
you want, if you want to pick, you know. But we are on the edge, so it's like somebody could feasibly pick that. A developer could be like, oh, that's a good spot for...
Yeah, but there's tons of good spots, so... Yeah. Amy said, that is lovely. How do you get it to the house without cold damaging the flowers? Telling Aaron, drive slower. Drive slower. We were going to put it in the truck, and I kind of got it to the truck and realized there's no way this thing is getting through the door. So I sat in the passenger seat of the Gator and faced the front poinsettias toward me so that at least those were protected. And then Aaron drove the Gator to the portico area, and I ran it inside. So it was exposed.
I wasn't feeling that great that day. You remember?
No, you weren't. Yeah, you were just kind of like a little punky. And anyway, it didn't seem to hurt it. I mean, the poinsettias were fine, thankfully. But you could drape like a thin piece of plastic or something, or like a tea towel. I use tea towels all the time because they're really lightweight and they're larger usually than your regular dish towel. So they cover things really nicely. That's helpful. Amy said, this is probably one of my favorites of all your arrangements. Thank you. I wasn't sure about the branch to begin with, but it turned out so beautiful and unique. My husband says ditto. Thank you. Did you add floral preservative when you topped up the water? I didn't add that much water, so I didn't feel that it was necessary. When I added the first bit of preservative in with the original water, I added it for what I thought the end size of the container I was using was going to be. So I think there was plenty in there. Katie said, I have a question about the chicken wire. Since it gets wet, does it create rust spots in the inside of vases? I think eventually it could, but it doesn't seem to have any adverse effects on any flowers or anything like that. I've never had it. I've really never thought of it as being something I needed to avoid, I guess is the...
Rust isn't necessarily bad for plants, is it?
I don't know. It hasn't been bad for any of my cut arrangements, if I've even noticed that there has been rust. So maybe I'll pay attention to that more. Jan said, are the tulips extra long stemmed, or are they not in the water? They are most definitely in the water. In fact, several of them I had to keep cutting because they were a little bit too long. And tulips are one of those things that are really pretty right when you arrange them because they've got a nice drape. Then they start drinking water and they stand straight up. So they kind of mess with the overall look of your arrangement. And I kind of try to arrange knowing that. So like the ones that were coming out the side, I put stuff purposely over the top of them that would kind of pinch them down to where they couldn't do the lift thing. I probably should have talked through that a little bit because I've had arrangements that are so pretty when I get them done. And then the next morning I'm like, this looks nothing like what I created yesterday. What in the world? Tara said, how is the ice rink going, Laura? It's not right now. Aaron's kind of like talking me down out of it.
I'm not trying to talk
so
you out
I
of
got
it.
online. It's funny because you know the ads that you're served on Facebook or wherever. I mean, we talked about it, and then that day I was getting ads for.
Well, I think
ice
the reason
rings.
you were getting ads is because I was looking it up prior to us
Oh,
talking
you were?
about it. Yeah, I was.
He priced out. So I got on and I priced out like a modest size, 25 by 50, which I think is big for a home.
Yeah.
And you priced out like a 300 foot by 150 foot, and
I
you were
think
like,
it was
it's not
like-
feasible. It's not fine.
I think it was 200 by 100.
Oh, you don't have to put in like this massive ice rink. I'm talking like a little fun thing for the kids to do.
Yeah.
And I'm also talking about like putting some things around the outside and putting a huge tarp down and just filling it with a few inches of water. So you get a little bit of winter enjoyment, not putting like a huge thing that you then have to collapse and store somewhere.
What is it called
You're the
when you like
realist.
when you organize how you're looking at something by like most expensive to least expensive?
Yeah.
I always like want to know what the best thing is first, and then work my way down from there. Just because I need to know what the best one is.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know because I kind of know what the worst one is. Like that's probably like a little like a kiddie pool. You know what I mean?
Oh,
That's
you were going to
probably-
say my initial idea.
That's the cheapest. But I want to know like what the most expensive is, the coolest way to do it, and then the cheapest way. And then you can always like figure out.
It's so funny because I initially think DIY version. Like we
Yeah.
could pick up these supplies locally. It'll be fun for a month for the kids, and then we can take it apart and there's no commitment. You know, there's very little commitment.
But what if you had a 200 by 100? We could get a hockey team together.
Yes, we could. High desert hockey team.
Yeah.
Next question. What do you think about florist foam? It seems that it absorbs a lot of water, cut flowers stay in it for a long time. It does absorb a lot of water, but I do believe it's fairly controversial in the floral realm because it is non-biodegradable, like the microplastics thing. Carcinogens, is that how you say that?
It's made from carcinogens.
There's like toxic properties about it, but there are some alternatives, and I want to order some, Erin. I keep thinking about it and I just forget, but it's called agro wool, and it's a basalt rock base, and they spin the basalt rock into fibers. It's really an interesting thing, but it's reusable and it's non-toxic and all of that.
Lots of
business.
things that we use are not biodegradable. Why is that why is floral foam like? Do people not like it on a mass scale, or is
I
it
think-
actually home gardeners that are like the problem?
I don't know that it's a problem, but I think that there's just people who are trying to bring awareness to,
Yeah.
I mean, they're in every realm, there
Yeah.
are people bringing things to light, you know, and talking about it. And I don't think it's a bad thing. It's something to consider for sure. I tend to not use floral foam unless this is like the only case I've used it, and it's rare. I've got a few footed urns that are like this deep. Occasionally I'll cut a piece of floral foam that's like this big and put just a little disc in the middle and tape it into that. That's the only way I can really think to create an arrangement in something that looks like that. But I've never tried the agro wool, and I think it would be really interesting to try that, because if there is an alternative, then that's great. I did look up the price at one point. Let's see. I think the agro wool is of course more expensive. Yeah, $14 for a 9-inch floral foam brick, but it does say it's reusable. I don't know what that means after you poke it full of holes with your stems. I mean, maybe you use it until it starts falling apart and doesn't work for you anymore. Because floral foam, the Oasis, it's pretty like, I don't know if it's, I've never reused it because it just kind of like falls
Disintegrates?
apart. Yeah, it disintegrates. So anyway, that's that. Next video was fertilizing the plants in the Hartley, plus a house plant and seed unboxing. That was a fun morning for me. I just spent a couple hours out there in the greenhouse. I had the new seeds from Baker Creek, had picked up a few from the garden center, had new ornaments my mom had surprised me with for the tree in the Hartley. A box from Little Prince plants that they had sent out the night before is when we got that. And then I needed to just pay some attention to the plants in there. I need to do that again today. We did start running the fans in the ceiling. I hadn't really thought about like running the fans so that, you know, the heat that's rising, it help kind of push it back down and maybe help, you know, facilitate better air movement, I guess, and bring the heat around. It's been maintaining with that nice heater, that radiant, I don't know what to call it. Is it a radiant heater?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's been helping out tremendously, and it's just so non-invasive. Like, it doesn't make any noise. It just sits there and like puts off some heat. It's awesome. Where did you get the black plant stand in the Hartley? It's fantastic. That came from Gardener's Supply, and they sent it out like last year at the beginning of the season. But you guys know our journey with the Hartley was a long one. it was long. So it was like a year later that I was able to put it into to use. So I put it into use this year, and they sent it out last year. It just sat in the, I put it together, I think, in a video to show you guys the stand, and then it went up into the loft until we were able to use it. And I love it in there. It's like the perfect scale in that space. Cindy said, will you plant Levinapuffs this year? It came back from me when I planted it 2 years ago. Maybe. I actually don't have any of that seed. That's something to think about. Maybe I should order some. It's a vine. It's an annual vine here in our area, and it produces these really pretty puffs. It's almost like the golden rain tree that we have. It just creates those little lanterns. The only downside to that one is maybe I grew it, I don't know on what sort of structure I should grow it. It grew on ranch panels, which have, the big kind of wide open grid. And I wasn't able to ever really get long stems from it unless you cut a big bunch of the vine away. And if you do that, then you just have to spend a bunch of time unraveling it from the trellis. And then maybe that's what you have to do. And I did use it in Megan's. At the time she was watching the kids for us, and she got married that fall, and so I did her wedding bouquet. It looked really pretty in that she wanted something unique that she had never seen in somebody else's bouquet, and that definitely brought the unique factor. It brought some like movement and some kind of magic to it. Joni said, in hindsight, knowing what you do now, what would you do differently with your Hartley build? I would say that I would make decisions earlier, but I just don't operate that way. Mm-hmm. So I just don't know that would ever happen. I mean, obviously, if you are researched and you know exactly what you want, where to get the materials, all of that, things go way smoother for everybody. And I wish I was more like that. The floor in the Hartley, do you think you'd put heat under it? I don't know if you could with those rocks, but would you choose maybe a different thing to put on the floor so that we could put radiant heat under there? Would that be efficient? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know, because you have to have a boiler if you do that, and you got to put it somewhere.
Well, that's true.
It's not like just this magical thing where
that all of a sudden will heat for you.
So then you got to, in our situation, you got to, trench that somewhere, either a little bit away.
Everything involves a trench.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And you don't want it anywhere really nearby.
Right. The only hard thing about the Hartley with that floor, I love the floor, and I wouldn't change it necessarily. It's super thick rock, it's natural stone, and I wanted natural materials in there. I didn't want it to look manufactured. I didn't want them to look all the same size or any of that business. And so it's really the perfect stone, but it is a beast to clean because of all the uneven edges on the rocks.
Do you really need to clean it though?
Well, that's the thing. It's a greenhouse in the end, but it does get pretty dirty. And it's Bethany, bless her heart. She cleaned the floor in there a couple weeks ago and cleaned the floor, and it's gorgeous. And she's trying to figure out what kind of tools work the best.
Didn't she get a drill?
She had a drill with brushes that attach so that she could really, because that floor had never been properly cleaned since the completion of it. Mm-hmm. And there was still a bunch of that sand, that binding sand, whatever Benny uses as a binding sand. No more. It's the worst. It sticks to everything, and it ruins the color on things. So you have to just really spend a lot of time in elbow grease trying to lift that off of the surface. And I don't know what could be done differently with that. But anyway, so it's not even something I would change. It's just a fact about the floor in there. If you're going to have natural stone, it's not going to be easy to sweep. Stuff's going to catch all over the edges of the rocks. It really requires a vacuum. I need to move the broom out. I don't even use the broom in there ever.
I like the size of ours. I think it's the perfect size visually. I think once you're inside, it could be bigger.
Well, I mean...
But I don't think that the look of a bigger one would be what we're going for.
No, and we considered the size...
And certainly the expense.
We considered the size bigger, and I can't remember what it's called. So ours is the Grand Lodge. There's a Grand Manor. I think was the bigger one. I didn't like the proportions of the roof line. Mm-hmm. I actually prefer the roof line on this one. Everything looks perfect.
It has a different pitch.
Yeah.
To the roof.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else. Everything else is great. I mean, I probably would have made sure the water line was buried properly before it went in, and so it didn't have to be dug back up. I mean, there's those things, but they're fixable, and you just move on.
Yeah, I'm not really sure there's much else. One thing I am curious is if people would like a video of us going through the actual expenses of the greenhouse. I kind of wondered, because we uploaded that video of the start to finish.
Yeah.
But I don't know if people are kind of like sick of it. Like, okay, cool, you have a greenhouse.
Yeah,
great.
whatever. Quit
Like,
talking about it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
let's do some gardening videos. Because like I recognize that
Yeah.
not a lot of people are going to have that type of a greenhouse. They're going to have, different types. So it may not be applicable. But anyway, so I guess like let us know.
Yeah, we can put something together like that.
I started going through some of the expenses. Some of them I can't quite come up with because like Chad was doing other work for us. And the way it was itemized, like I feel like Chad is super reasonable in his prices. And so if it's not itemized, but the total amount just like looks like it is correct, like I don't care.
Yeah.
Like it's a great price in my mind. So like I can't differentiate when he was like digging out where the what was it called? What was before the Hartley?
Gazebo.
The gazebo, when he was digging out the pad and everything versus the work he was doing out in the south garden.
Right.
So some things I can't come up with prices, but a lot of it, I have it written down how much we paid.
I don't know if I actually want to know. I maybe have a rough idea in my brain, but
Maybe I'll do that video.
I think you'll have to. It makes me cringe to think about those sorts of things because, our area is rough in terms of getting landscape help, like hardscape. We are very limited in our options.
We're not the only ones, though. I talked to a guy at Hartley not that long ago, and he said that somebody bought a multiple $100,000 structure and had to cancel the order because he spent about a year looking for a contractor and couldn't find one and just had to and I'm assuming that the story is true.
Couldn't find a contractor who would do that project.
Who would work on that? Because Hartley doesn't, they don't do the
Hartley
brickwork
is just the metal and glass,
right?
And I mean they send a team out twice to unpack the delivery, and then also
but
they
you
send
have to
it back
have
out
somebody
to put it
excavate,
together.
pour concrete.
Everything from the brick down is all separate,
right?
A separate work. But
so
the
if you
plans
can't
come
find
from
somebody
Hartley.
to help, but it's just such a crazy economy that a lot of people are busy doing other things that they don't necessarily want to take on, and projects like that, there may be a lot of people that aren't as accustomed to doing it. It's like, well, I'm just building homes and I'm building as many as I can right now, so I don't really have time for your special project. But anyway, so we're not. What I was saying is we're not alone in having trouble finding contractors to do stuff.
Yeah. But when you have fewer options, the prices are, you can't really,
price is the price.
The price is the price, and that's what you got to do if you want to get the work done. Unless you want to do it yourself, which we've determined is not good for Aaron and I's relationship. There are some things we can work together on. I think it's probably the same with everyone, and there are some things that's best leave it to the professional. If we did it ourselves,
it would probably have like a Lemony Snicket's vibe, where it kind of is like...
Yeah, just look at it with your head tilted to the left.
Yeah.
Linda from Idaho said, do you have the ceiling fans on in the Hartley to force the warm air back down? We do now. I'm going to go in there this morning after we're done here just to check on all the plants and make sure everything's going well in there, and I'll see what it's feeling like. Pat said, I always notice that you use your Felco 2 pruners with all sorts of projects where I would have to use scissors. How do you keep yours sharp with a Felco sharpener? I have a small file that I use regularly, but I know I wouldn't cut that ribbon with mine. Right before I tackled that project, I had used, this is a Felco 990, it's synthetic grease. I know this has nothing to do with the sharpness of the blade, but I did happen to put a little bit of that on my pruners, like right in here, because I need to take these apart really bad. And in fact, maybe we'll do that here this next week. That's perfect time between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
Let's get all the Felcos maintained. But I put a little bit of grease in there, and that just like loosens them up a little bit. These are the sharpeners that we use right here. I don't know, this is a 904. This is the one I'm accustomed to using. And this one doesn't have a number on it. But anyway, that's what we use to sharpen the blades. And we'll sharpen the Felcos maybe once, probably twice a season altogether. This one has hot glue on it from my last project. But I love keeping them up like that because like the ribbon just cuts easy, and then I can cut the wire with the little wire notch right here, and then I can use it to groom. So they're definitely a multi-purpose tool for me. This recap is not sponsored by Felco. In fact, today's recap is sponsored by no one.
Yeah.
Because it's Christmas.
Yeah, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
No sponsors on Christmas.
No. Next video is planting and growing lettuce in winter. So we were in the greenhouse for that project. I had just received some Crispino iceberg lettuce and Casey butterhead lettuce I bought from Johnny Seeds. I unboxed that in a recent unboxing. and I wanted to get some started. I planted 24 of each one of them. Both varieties are pelleted, so I went over the pros and cons of pelleted seed, and then just a bunch of information on growing lettuce and kind of cultural information and what you need to shoot for if you want to get some lettuce up and growing. So I'm very excited to see some greens in there. Jose said, can you do a Christmas house tour? I was thinking about it seriously like earlier in December, but then I decided I didn't feel like it. I put up 4 trees inside. So there's a nutcracker tree, there's a vintage Santa tree. I did a true vintage tree with like vintage ornaments, colorful lights, really cute. And then our great room tree, and then we have the Hartley tree. I didn't decorate the mantle this year just because I just was doing what felt natural, and we did a little bit more outside with the Hartley containers. I did 3 doorways this year, did wreaths and things like that. And there's only so much time as well, and I want to not be like
burdened by having to do everything.
Yeah, every year is different a little bit, and every year I feel like focusing on different things. And yeah. Jennifer said, do you keep your self-watering seed trays full of water always? I haven't had good luck using them because it keeps my seed trays too wet and my seeds end up damping off or struggling. I found that most seedlings prefer to dry out a bit between watering, and if the tray always has water in it, the soil never dries out, which is true. It doesn't ever dry out, and it might not be suited for some crops, like straw flowers. For example, they want to be fairly dry. China asters tend to want to dry out, and you kind of learn over time which ones you need to keep the reservoir full and which ones you don't. The beauty of it is, for me, in the seedling, like the first part of the seedling phase, when they need to be kept constantly moist, it's a really good option because then you don't have to mist all the time and worry about missing, because if you miss your misting time and those trays dry out on the top soil surface, which is easy to do when that seed is so close to the top of the soil surface, if they dry out, then you lose germination most of the time and you won't have very good luck with the germination rate. So it's good during that time. It's good when the seedlings have grown up a little bit and you've got a lot of roots in the trays. They utilize a lot more water. But I think every year, you figure out which ones work and which ones don't. I would use vermiculite on the top of your seed trays because I did see the word damping off in here. Yeah, they end up damping off or struggling. Vermiculite helps hugely with damping off and issues like that. So that was a game changer for me.
Could it be our climate? Like,
it could be.
How
We're
dry?
so dry here. We're so dry
maybe
here.
Maybe the air is so dry that they work really well for us, but
it's
maybe
true.
Not everywhere.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Climate could do like huge things. Only keep that humidity dome on until you have germination, and then take that thing off. Make sure there's a fan pointed at them. That helps keep them dried out a little bit. So that's what I do anyway. I want to say that I've had maybe better luck with them being in an interior situation rather than in the greenhouse because humidity levels are just higher out there naturally. Deb said, where can you get a Mesto? So that was a sprayer I used, which is awesome. It was the first time I've ever used it.
I put a link for it after the video had got. So that question probably was before I put the link in, but I found the link for the website. So
perfect.
You can buy it online.
The thing about it, and there are other misters I've used, but it doesn't seem as like smooth as the button was on this one.
Could they not have gotten the name Misto? That's what I want to know.
Oh.
They were so close. I've never heard of Mesto before.
Neither have I, but we have 2 of the Mesto sprayers here, and so I tried that one. And what it is the tube that goes down into the reservoir, it has a little weight on the end, so if you turn it upside down, it's going to flip that tube and go down to where the water naturally is, because both the weight and the water will go down to the bottom. And so I did a bunch of testing with it, and it sprayed out beautifully no matter how I had messed with it. So my goal is to keep it out of reach of the kids. That's where things start going awry for me. And then all of a sudden my watering cans are full of rocks and dirt. So I think keeping everything clean and not introducing anything except for clear water keeps them working really, really nicely. Like I probably wouldn't mix up my fertilizer in a sprayer like that because I'll start using some Espoma liquid fertilizer as soon as the, stuff grows up a little bit. But that has little elements in it, like little bits, and you don't want to get anything
particulates.
Particulates.
You always make fun of me by saying that word.
I kind of like that word though. Going Green Mom said, what is the purpose of planting 2 in the same hole with fresh seed if they can't stay planted together? Because you want to make sure you get one in that tray. Most seeds that you're buying fresh, it probably isn't a thing because most, and I don't have the seed packets in here with me, but most packets will give you a germination rate. And I don't think you can sell seeds below a certain percentage. But I don't think it's maybe rare that you get 100% germination rate. Like this seed is guaranteed to come up. I don't think you'll ever get that. So you want to make sure that when you're planting your trays that you get at least one seedling in there, just in case one of the seeds is bad for some reason. So in my case, I put 2 seeds in the same hole. I'll cut one out when they grow up. And I explained if you want to get more seedlings out of it, which I don't need in my situation, you can do 2 holes a little bit further away from each other in the same cell. And that way, when you go to pot them up, you can take that cell out, separate them, and then you have 2 seedlings instead of the 1, and then you don't waste any seed. And that is worth it to me when the seeds are more expensive. But the lettuce seed, even pelleted, is pretty inexpensive. So it's worth it to me to do it that way. I like having things in the center. Like that's part of my fussiness, I guess. Jay Lee said, I found that my Espoma organic seed starting mix would get white mold on it in those gardener's self-watering trays, but not in regular trays. A lot of my seedlings died in those trays. What did I do wrong? I mean, again, maybe it was a situation where things stayed way too wet. That's possible. Vermiculite helps with the white mold on top, and I think that would happen with any soil that you'd use that would stay too wet. So I don't know where you are from. I don't know what kind of humidity you have and those sorts of things, but I'll share with you, what goes on with these. I didn't fill the trays in the video because I thought, well, I'll just mist these, over the next few days because I don't have as much going on. I ended up filling them up about halfway. Thought I'll let them use this water up and then we'll see where they're at that point. Michelle said, I would like to purchase all my vegetable seeds now. What company seeds are the best and where can I get the plastic dome for my trays? And where can I purchase the soil you use to have shipped to me in northern Panhandle, Idaho? The first thing I would do, the best source is to go to your local garden center, honestly. Usually they're going to be carrying seeds that do well in your area. I know my parents' garden center, we have a whole bulk seed wall. And those are seeds that they have been selling, the same varieties in those, for the most part, the same varieties in those trays or those bins.
Displays? Oh, bins.
Bins forever. Forever. They've been selling the same varieties because they do so well in our area. And they're a lot of the favorites, a lot of the favorite carrot varieties, cabbage varieties, some standard stuff that people just have really good luck with. And then they've got a few other, companies. There's a Snake River Seed Cooperative, I think, that's local here. And I do start quite a lot of their seeds. So I would check with your local garden center for all your supplies first. They'll have all your stuff too, like the humidity domes and the trays, all of that kind of stuff. Kind of nice to see things in person. A couple of really good resources for us, Gardener Supply, clearly. I mean, we use a lot of their seed starting equipment. These grow lights are from them. And they've got really, really good stuff. And I want to get some of those accordion paper seed trays for this next year for some of my larger crops, the things I want to grow a lot of that grow really fast, like cosmos and zinnias. I think I'm going to start those in trays this year. Those work really well. For seeds, Johnny's, I order a ton of seeds from Johnny's. I feel like their prices are really good. They have a huge selection and the information cannot be beat by anybody else's seed packets. And I don't know why, why don't other companies copy that? I would, if I was a seed company.
Johnny's, you can send checks to Garden Answer.
I know. That's the funny part. Johnny's, we've never worked together. I just find the information on their website and on their seed packets so incredibly valuable. And I don't know why other packets don't follow suit. Doesn't make any sense. Any information I need to find is on that packet.
That is pretty handy.
It is nice. And I'll go to companies' websites like Baker Creek, rareseeds.com is their website. They've got some really cool varieties too, but their information is not as good on their website or their packages.
I should try to get a hold of Johnny's and see if they want to sponsor a recap video.
You should. Yeah. Good idea. Yeah. Best idea today, Red. Sarah said, Merry Christmas. Instead of the paper seed cells for your larger crops like zinnias, what about using soil blocks? Yeah, I've heard a lot of things about soil blocks. It's something we may try. I have the tool. I think Gardener Supply sent it out. I have the soil blocker. I've just not been super interested in that process. I just need to get to a point where I'm interested in trying it. I have such a good seed setup now and we have such good luck that I really have, in some areas, I just don't have interest. Composting, don't have interest really in doing that. You may do it at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to force myself to do something that doesn't bring me joy.
Yeah. So. With composting, it's hard because we're at a point where you have to compost a lot.
Yeah, but some would argue that, you create a lot of waste. It would help,
Yeah.
Whatever with that. And any compost that you create is good. It's better
Yeah.
than nothing.
Or we could just throw it out on the new pasture and just leave it.
True.
It'll eventually compost.
Eventually, with all the rain we get. Well, we're getting a lot now. Winters are usually pretty good for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next video. And I think this is the last one from this week. I was excited about this video. Creating living topiaries from scratch using small plants. And then I used, and this was an afterthought, but I had a bunch of these trimmings from trimming these little plants. And I thought I could make a quick wreath with that. And then I picked way too large of a wreath form, didn't have enough, and ended up having to total kitchen sink wreath to the max. I used all the stuff that was in here left over from other projects. I had a pile of birch branches. I had some dried elements from our little terracotta gift basket, the dried flower arrangements I did on top. And then I had right outside the door, I had 2 extra noble fir boughs that I just cut apart for another project, but I had a few little tips left on it. So I cut a couple of those, but I think it turned out pretty.
You would do really well on a chopped style wreath making show.
Maybe I thought you were going to say cooking. I'm like, nope.
Where they give you limited supplies. You must make a beautiful wreath out of these.
I don't know. I think it depends on the day. Sometimes though, sometimes you feel inspired to do it, and sometimes it doesn't go well.
Sure.
Sometimes you do it and you're like, oh, that was. And I actually had a moment right after I set the 2 birch branches. There was a moment where I kind of stopped. We stopped for lunch, I think. I'm like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like this isn't going to turn out. I just need a minute to regroup for a second. Then I came back out here and it all went pretty well. The wreath is sitting. It's hanging on the chicken coop door now. Anne said, have you ever added birds to your wreaths? I added them to mine. A cardinal would bring a beautiful pop with some berries to that wreath. I agree. I think that would be really pretty. And once I get it on the chicken coop door, I swear, Erin, we need to swap all of our doors out for solid doors. All of our doors have glass.
Yeah.
And it is so hard to make wreaths that pop on glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the red would help. Dorothy said, what an interesting wreath. Will this go on the chicken coop or barn? Chicken coop. So interesting how you trim the plants to train. I had no idea. Have you ever made one with multi-trunks? Well, I did in this video. There's set one with 7 trunks. Somebody, and I don't know if you grabbed this comment, but I did see this morning, somebody said, could you have braided some of those? I missed my opportunity. I totally could have braided. There might have been 1 or 2 where I could have created a really fun and had a more full looking top right from the gate, because you're dealing with more branching. That was a good idea, whoever gave that suggestion. Tammy said, I have a question about plant hardiness. As I type this, we are negative 28 degrees with a wind chill of negative 65. We live in northern Montana, supposed to be a zone 4. When a tag says zone 4 up to negative 30 degrees, does that wind chill have any factor in that? I mean, thoughts, Erin? I'm sure it does. It depends on how acclimated your plants are. I don't know what wind chill in actual temperature. That doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know that plant breeders really know when you're talking about temperatures that cold, because I don't think it happens often enough for them to gather enough data on it. We know from working with Proven Winners that they have people in different areas, but you don't get to negative 60 wind chill
all the time,
all that often. So they don't really know if some of these can take it or not. And I know that sometimes they'll be cautious with what they say that something can handle, because they don't want to lie. They don't want to be like, it can take way more than that, But oftentimes I think that plants can take a little bit more than what they'll say on the tag, because they don't want people coming back and being like, you lied. So anyway, when it comes to negative 60, it's wind chill. Who knows if it can take that? Maybe.
Well, I like that answer. Good job, Erin.
This is a segue. I wanted to mention my mom posted this here in Ontario, where we live, Ontario, Oregon. The year that we moved here, 1990. How old were you? You guys moved to the new house in 1990.
Yeah, we did.
Or the farmhouse.
Yeah, I've been in Ontario my entire life.
Yeah. It got down to negative, not wind chill, just it got down to negative 25 here in this town.
In 1990.
And that was the record, the first year that we were here. So anyway, you've always said that it can get down to negative 15 here. And I've always heard you say that, and I'm like, man, I just don't remember a time that it ever got down that cold. But it actually got down to negative 25 that one year.
Yeah.
So Anyway, it's not common to get down that cold.
No, it hasn't been common the last few years. That's why they bumped us up to a zone 6. But a lot of us who've been here our whole lives don't trust it.
Yeah, because you remember, well, now, we'll remember the one year that we got how many inches of snow?
52.
52 inches of snow, all within a pretty short period of time, which is...
And it got cold.
Crazy for us.
Mm-hmm. We got negatives that winter.
Yeah, and a lot of years we don't even get below 0.
Mm-hmm. Those big baskets next to the finished topiary is gorgeous. Where did you get them from? I got them from a store called Bi-Mart here in town. They were on an end cap. I don't even know what we were after that day. We were after for a supply for a video, and I saw those big baskets. This right here, I bought a pair of them. They were originally marked $34.99, but I think they had them on an end cap on sale. I have no idea what I'm going to use these for, but I was like, that's a big basket, and I like it.
I need that big basket in my life.
I need those baskets. Yeah. So now I have these baskets. We'll do something cool in them.
Did you know that Joanna Gaines has an entire warehouse of junk?
Really?
Yeah, that's what we need.
Like props, yeah.
Yeah, we need...
How big of a warehouse?
If you're in the business of needing props, like if you've got a show where you're decorating people's... The times that you find the things that you're going to use for a future whatever, like you just have to hold on to them and wait for the right
what
time.
I would be interested in is to see how they inventory that stuff.
Yeah.
So that you can know at a glance, like, okay, throw blankets. What do we got? You know, what colors do we have? What styles do we have? How many of them do we have? Because I feel like I'm getting to the point, especially with like seasonal Christmas decor, I really need to go through mine and purge a bunch of stuff. Just get rid of a bunch of stuff that I tend to, like I can think of 2 things right now that's just stay in the tubs every single year. And in and of themselves, they're pretty, but they don't really spark anything in me. And so I should just pass them on to somebody who would really love them. I really need to go through my stuff like that, but it would be nice to have some kind of an inventory to know what I have.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, especially like with wreaths, because they're all covered, I forget what I have. I forget if they need to be repaired. I forget those kinds of things, and I don't want to be wasteful and just have stuff sitting around for no reason. You and I are pretty good at going through things on occasion and just like we
Purging.
put a huge giveaway pile out in our driveway. We just pile everything out there, and then anybody who's working here, they get first dibs on anything out there to take it for free. And then usually we'll have your mom come through. See if she wants anything, any family or friends, and then everything else is donated. So it's a pretty good system, I think.
Yeah.
Jennifer said, that was super interesting to watch. Curious why you chose Zone 7 plants for this. I chose those because I had those. Like there was no other reason. I had ordered them for fall. I don't know if I explained this in the video or not. Maybe I did, so I might be repeating myself. Every season, I usually have one big order that I put in down at the garden center, just full of for fall, it's usually full of cabbage and kale, pansies, lonicera, helichrysum, things like that I'm going to probably be using in arrangements, and I want to make sure I have them on hand. And it's always, every season, I always have a small handful of things, usually of the same variety that I just didn't end up using in the ways that I thought I might use it. So in this case, I had 16 of the lonicera, which is also called box honeysuckle. I had 16 of those left, and they needed to be potted up. You saw their root systems. So I was looking at them the other day thinking, okay, how many pots do I need to get? Because I just need to repot them at least. And then I got to looking at their structure and thought, you know what? We could start some topiaries and make this kind of wild plant really cool looking, hopefully. And I really see their shape starting to form. Like even though they're spindly, and any topiary at this stage would look like that, you can see where I'm going with them. And I was really pleased with the outcome there. So Rodney said, what is the style of the first pot called? It looks taller and more narrow. And somebody replied and said, it's a long tom terracotta. I loved those. They only had 2 in that size down at the garden center. I actually called my mom and told her, okay, I think I cleaned you out of this size. And she said she was going to be putting it in order probably next week, a terracotta. So I wasn't too worried about it. I try not to clean them out when I do a big project. I special order whatever I can. Anyway, I would have done every single one of those in those long toms. However, they were like $10 more a pot.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I was thinking that $10 more times 100 or times 16. That's $160 extra for this project. That might work out. You use those pots forever, so it's not a bad investment. But it would have kicked the cost up quite a bit. In this case too, if they're just going to be hanging out in the greenhouse for a while, I was thinking of just kicking them up into plastic pots that we have here, and it's like a no-cost project almost. not no cost. I mean, I bought the plants, all that sort of thing, but it wouldn't add a tremendous amount of cost to use those sorts of things. But since they look so cool right from the gate, like we can put them outside and they look pretty and a little elevated being in something other than a plastic pot. Last question for today. L. Burnsy said, random question, would you ever consider creating a garden calendar? We've considered it often and a lot. We are really not that great about especially now, getting really good pictures. We don't often get out the nice cameras.
We have enough though. We have enough photos.
I feel like I would be grasping though. Like I've never set out to think, okay, every month of this year, I'm going to create a calendar worthy picture, like something that's got the right scale. Everything that we have right now, I feel like it would need to be cropped and it's not quite there.
Yeah. I don't think that's the bottleneck. I think just figuring out like who would produce it, like what company to go with, and then how to ship them. I'm always really worried on like the shipping part of things. Cause like, if let's say we sold 1,000 of them or whatever, like, I don't know how to package things well. And I'd be worried that we'd ship them out and then they'd all get mishandled and then everybody would want a refund. And we'd be like, well, that's cool. We just, lost however many thousands of dollars on that project because I don't know, it's something we just need to kind of get into, but I don't really know the steps of getting into shipping things.
We need somebody like a merch expert who could get us all started. So if you're a merch expert,
the problem is if you're a merch expert, then you end up losing any profit that you would have made, and then you would just end up spending time on doing it and paying somebody who knows how to do it. I think the way it works is that you got to figure it out yourself.
Makes sense. Yeah, I know I'm the biggest bottleneck when it comes to merch. To be completely honest, I have a really hard time disconnecting myself from the things that we would have on the merch line from like stuff that I would personally use or personally wear versus what other people might like to wear. I mean, because everybody's different, has different styles, different tastes.
But you would treat it like your own personal taste.
Right.
Like I only sell things that
I would want a certain look
wear.
And a certain brand. And I don't think that I'm alone in wanting to make sure that things that we had were high quality. Things we had were, that sort of thing.
But even then, some people don't want high quality. Some people don't. Like they don't want to pay it. Then they won't. They'll buy, like some people will go to Walmart and they'll get the cheapest vacuum and they'll buy it every year. And it'll break down, they'll buy another cheap vacuum. And then some people will spend, I don't know how much people spend for vacuums. Some people will get the top of the line. But that's the whole point, is that there's a range. There's a range. And I'm not saying that you need to be everything and sell everything if you're doing a merch line. But I'm just saying that like everybody wants different stuff. Yeah. And I have a hard time disconnecting from, I don't know if that's the right word, but I have a hard time taking that in and creating something around that. I can tell you want to create a clothing line. You don't want a merch line. And I've told you that merch and clothing are just kind of like different beasts.
It's just that, what we do is so hard. It's hard on clothing, but it's also hard to I end up wearing tons of button ups and stuff that's really long and stuff that's baggy because I don't really want to show a lot of, I don't feel like that's appropriate. I don't like to show a lot of skin, and I want to, when I bend over, feel comfortable that my shirt's not riding up, and I want things to feel good when I'm out in the garden. I do not want to be worried about anything that I'm wearing. I don't even want it to be a thought. And that's why we're the same things over and over again, because I need to be able to move. I need to be able to be confident that nothing's going to, be out of place. And I feel like that is so incredibly hard to find. It's hard. And so it'd be so nice to have a specific gardening line of clothing that has extra long tank tops that do not budge when you bend over. They don't roll up. You get those that roll up. Oh, that's the worst.
But everybody's body shape is different.
I know.
And I think that if you did it for one body shape, then it wouldn't work for the next one down the line. I think it would work
for a lot. I don't know.
Maybe.
I know nothing about it. But that's always been my thing. It would be super nice to just have it, not a lot of things, because you don't need a lot to be out in the garden, but certain seasons, spring, summer, and fall sort of clothing that works well.
Yeah. What you would need is somebody to come to our house and bring a truckload of clothing and be like, these are your options. Touch them. And that's the only way it would work.
I'd be like, hold on, let me go grab my auger. Let me grab my auger and my starter fertilizers and plants, and let's do this thing. Let's try these out. Because it's so frustrating when you buy something new and you take it out and it doesn't work the way you think it's going to work.
So we will not have any merch or clothing in the foreseeable
Probably
future.
not. It kind of comes down to what kind of time do you want to spend?
Yeah.
You know, is it worth your time? It might be an investment of time in the beginning and not pay off until later, not make any difference. You just have to kind of weigh those options. And right now we don't have a ton of extra time with all the projects that we do and with the kids. It's on purpose that we,
Yeah. We want to spend more time with kids. And
we do, yeah. Speaking of that time, today's Christmas Day. I don't think we're going to have a video out on the main channel tomorrow, Monday, or possibly not even Tuesday, because we want to make sure that we're giving the people that help us out around here ample time to be with their families and have a little bit of some downtime as well, and for us. So anyway, it might be Wednesday before we post
or
a video.
Longer. I've been pushing.
He pushes. I'm like, nope, I'll have one up and ready on Monday.
Yeah.
I will do it because I am I like to have that productive check mark at the end of the day, and to me, that's like.
If that makes you happy, then
because
then
it
go
involves
for it. But
two
I'm
things. It involves filming a video and connecting with you guys, and it also involves gardening. And I like to do that, and it's a little bit of kind of me time in a way.
Yeah, sure.
Because I get out and I get to do some things. I get to take care of like plants and things that I need to do anyway, and it just kind of fills my cup a little bit in that way. So. I just don't know how it's going to work out. So I just wanted to prep you guys that it may be Wednesday before we post just for the Christmas holiday. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this recap video. I hope you all have had a wonderful Christmas, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.